Ask any Slipknot fan what happened to the band, and you'll hear one name being blamed more than any other: Clown. Real name, Shawn Crahan.
I'm the Clown, number 6. I play percussion.
The guy smashing beer kegs with baseball bats. The guy who can turn a simple question into a 40-minute sermon about art and integrity.
My art's fucking more than money. I'm sick of this fucking business.
Is also the same guy people blame for turning the most dangerous band of a generation into a corporation with a logo. There's just one problem with that story. Before Clown got recast as the guy who ruined Slipknot, he was one of the main guys who helped build the whole ugly, beautiful machine in the first place. So, what the hell changed? Why is Clown so hated all of a sudden? By the late 1990s, heavy music was in a weird spot. Grunge had pretty much burned itself out. Thrash had slipped back underground. Alternative rock had gotten boring enough to end up in car commercials. The industry had learned how to shrink rebellion, wrap it in plastic, and stack it on a shelf at Target. Then, 9 psychopaths from Iowa showed up looking like they just escaped from some maximum security psychiatric facility, and for some reason decided to make a metal album. Even today, Slipknot's debut sounds brutal, but when it first came out, it felt properly insane and deranged. Not just the sound, but the whole package. I mean, those masks, the jumpsuits, the violence during the live shows. Truth is, most people chase rock stardom for money and attention. But Slipknot looked like they'd beat the shit out of you for offering either. And for a whole generation of alienated kids, that hostility hit a nerve.
This is my new fucking favorite band in the whole fucking world right here. I want to see some action from everybody. All you on the hill, get the fuck down here. Give it up for Slipknot!
The economy was booming. Pop music was doing great, the future was supposed to look bright, but millions of teenagers were sitting alone in their bedrooms feeling angry, cut off, and suspicious of all that polished optimism being sold to them. Slipknot gave those feelings a sound and a face. Or, well, a mask.
We do it for ourselves and we do it for the kids. We don't do it for anybody else. And luckily people are understanding what we're all about, and we appreciate every fan out there who buys our albums, and we'd like to say thank you because they're the most important thing to us, and you know, we're really lucky to be living out this dream.
And one of the architects of the project was Shawn Crahan himself, looking less like a musician and more like someone you'd expect to see in some true crime documentary on Netflix.
Barely see the eyes, barely hear me. Creepy ass fucking clown. That clown will kill you. That clown doesn't think. That clown doesn't care.
It's easy to forget how important Clown was to the mythology, because he was never the most popular member.
I'm Corey, singer for Slipknot.
It was easy to love Corey Taylor. I mean, he was the front man and screamed like he wanted to rip off his vocal cords from his throat.
I'm Joey from Slipknot. I'm number 1 and I play the drums.
People loved Joey Jordison too, this exceptionally unique drummer who seemed to hit everything like it had personally offended him.
Paul, number 2, and I play bass.
And they loved Paul Gray, one of the primary songwriters behind the scenes, doing the less glamorous but actually crucial work that keeps a band from turning into a costume party with amps. Clown sat somewhere stranger than all of that, in a role that was quieter on paper and harder to explain without sounding like a lunatic. On stage, sure, he was banging on kegs, which is the kind of job description that sounds ridiculous, until you see the whole machine working. But really, he was the architect of the atmosphere, the curator of the nightmare. The one guy who kept pushing the bigger question: how do we make the project feel more disturbing and more theatrical and more impossible to forget? Because he figured something out before almost anybody else did, which is great bands don't just write catchy songs, they build worlds. Black Sabbath made a whole universe out of fear for the paranormal. Kiss didn't blow up because they were better musicians. They blew up because they understood spectacle. Alice Cooper got it. Bowie got it. The bands that are truly great offer people an alternative reality that helps them forget how shitty their real life is, even if just for a moment. So that's why Slipknot, more than just music, was supposed to feel like an experience.
It's extremely sick and brutal, but it's all within the realm of being controlled and having fun, and everyone leaves, with a positive experience, getting all the negative stuff out. It's a pretty cathartic thing.
The masks, the brutality, and the anonymity were all built to highlight the same thing. While in that space, your individual identity didn't matter for shit. Once you entered Slipknot's world, you could forget who you are and let the experience assault your senses. No one embodied that idea more fully than Clown. In old footage, his commitment is almost absurd. While the other band members play real instruments, he seems to turn his own body into the instrument. He fights the stage itself, smashing kegs, headbutting anything within reach, bleeding, sweating, moving like a man who just escaped police custody. And the mask is important because without it, he would simply look like some weirdo trying too hard. The mask gave Shawn permission to stop being Shawn. What emerged was Clown, a louder, uglier, and more violent character, but somehow perhaps more honest. Fans were looking at someone in a mask, act out feelings most people spend their lives trying to hide, which is to say they were not looking at a man, they were looking at a symbol.
I came up with wearing the mask because I didn't want people to see my real pain. I didn't want to be judged on, hey, he wears glasses. This week he has a goatee. This week he has his hair slicked back. I didn't want all that. I wanted to share my own fear behind the mask. So that way you, the fan, could adjust to the symbolism of what I represented.
The irony is that beneath all the chaos, Slipknot were incredibly disciplined. This wasn't 9 idiots accidentally stumbling into success. This was a group that rehearsed obsessively, toured relentlessly, and approached the project with a level of commitment bordering on obsession. And as I just explained, much of that obsession came from Clown, constantly thinking about visuals, concepts, presentation, and symbolism, branding before branding became a dirty word. You can even see in some behind-the-scenes footage of an old interview, Clown giving instructions to the other members as to what to talk about.
So talk a little bit about the band and then introduce a video.
Introduce video and then we'll go to video and then.
All right.
But we'll open the show, talk about some shit, and we'll do Machine Head.
Machine Head.
And then we'll do all our individual ones, and then we'll end with Head PE.
All right.
That's fair.
Okay.
Do you want me to do shows? Do you want to do it?
I'll do it.
Just talk about our video. Just say we're good.
Yeah.
Okay, just tell the band that.
Okay, you can hear. All right.
In the beginning, fans didn't hate Clown, but today, well, most do and claim he single-handedly ruined the band for everybody. So what the hell changed exactly? Well, despite the public image of chaos, classic-era Slipknot was never built around a single leader. The band's greatest strength was also its greatest weakness. Nobody completely controlled it. 9 members meant 9 egos, 9 creative perspectives, 9 people constantly forcing each other to justify their ideas. So this means that early Slipknot was the product of creative conflict and arguing. Then, in May of 2010, Paul Gray died unexpectedly.
We've confirmed that the bassist for the band Slipknot has died.
He was found dead in an Urbandale motel room. News Channel 8's Amanda Lewis has the details. Amanda.
Well, they've been circulating rumors all day about 38-year-old Paul Gray, and now we're learning that those rumors are true. Urbandale police say employees of the town...
And honestly, it's hard to overstate how devastating that was. Not just on an emotional level, but in the way the whole project worked.
There is really nothing more to say than it's very important that everybody on the outside of us understands that Paul Gray was the essence of the band Slipknot. And Paul was there from the very, very, very beginning. And none of us would be on the path that we're on right now in life, or have the sorts of lives that we have without him. And as Corey said, he really was the essence of Slipknot, and we would like to have him remembered that way. And
over and over, his bandmates have described him as a key songwriter, a mediator, and one of the very few people who could navigate the volatile personalities orbiting around him without the whole thing going sideways. His death forced everyone to face what the masks could not protect them from. Slipknot was still a band of human beings, and human beings struggle and die. But the survivors kept going, and practically that made sense. Because by 2010, Slipknot was bigger than a group of musicians. It had employees, touring crews, contracts, and a global audience. But once Slipknot proved it could continue without one of its founders and key members, fans started asking a question that would only grow louder in the years ahead. Where does the band end and the business begin? If Paul's death created uncertainty, Joey Jordison's departure added more controversy. I have a whole documentary on Joey you can watch later, so I won't go into the details in this video. But thing is, Joey wasn't just a drummer. Those machine gun double bass patterns, those fills that managed to sound both precise and violent, helped define what listeners thought Slipknot was supposed to sound like. Still, at one point he got fired from the band, and the official statements at the time were vague. Years later, Joey revealed he had been suffering from transverse myelitis, a neurological condition that affected his ability to play, and allegedly he got fired via email while in a hospital bed. This is where Clown's role in the story begins to change. As the other founding voices of Slipknot disappeared, Clown's voice naturally occupied more space and authority.
it's more than half of my life now, being in this organization. I'm 56, so I spend more time in Slipknot, out of Slipknot.
And then in 2019, things got worse. Seemingly out of the blue, percussionist Chris Fenn filed a lawsuit against Shawn Crahan and Corey Taylor. Fenn claimed he had discovered a web of Slipknot-related businesses he never knew existed, and alleged that money he was entitled to was flowing into Crahan and Taylor's pockets through companies he had never been told about. Whether those claims were true was almost beside the point. For many fans, the lawsuit confirmed a suspicion that the band was no longer a brotherhood, but a business. And they believed Clown was a huge part of the issue. The case was eventually settled, and no court ever ruled on whether those accusations were true or not. Then came 2023, and things kept getting worse, because that's when Craig Jones was gone. He was the guy with the mask covered in giant metal spikes.
133, number 5, samples and keyboards.
One of the last remaining links to the band's classic lineup.
I mean, I'm talking about a dude who I knew before Slipknot was even a band. You know, we used to go to Rocky Horror Picture Show back in the day, and he would come out. He wasn't really a part of the crowd that I ran with, but he knew people that I was friends with, and he would just show up and he'd sit. He'd just kind of sit at a table and just... And I would be like, you know, and it was like 2 years before we had an actual conversation. I'm talking about a cat. I sat at the same table with him, and I just look over and I'd be like, let's get around.
Then, almost overnight, Slipknot announced they had parted ways, and maybe there was a perfectly reasonable explanation. The problem is that nobody gave one. At that point, fans had already watched the band go on without Paul Gray. Then Joey Jordison got fired, and then Chris Fenn sued Crahan and Taylor. So, when Craig was also out without a clear explanation, many fans recognized a disturbing pattern. And whether that was fair or not, the person many of them assumed was responsible for this was, well, you know it, Clown. And then, just a few months later, it happened again. This time, it was Jay Weinberg. Unlike Craig, Jay wasn't part of the original lineup. He joined the band in 2014 after the controversial departure of Joey Jordison. At first, many fans weren't happy. Replacing Joey Jordison was like replacing a founding father. But over the next decade, Jay earned their respect the hard way. He never tried to imitate Joey, and instead brought his own style to help carry Slipknot through an entirely new era. By 2023, Jay had been in the band for nearly 10 years. That's long enough for an entire generation of fans to think of him as the only drummer of Slipknot. But then he was fired. The announcement was brief and corporate. The band described it as a creative decision and moved on. And in absence of a better explanation, fans kept blaming Clown. They saw him as the gatekeeper of modern Slipknot, the guy steering the ship. And whether he personally made every decision was almost beside the point, because he was the guy doing interviews, explaining why difficult choices were necessary. In other words, he was perceived as management, and management is never popular. The irony is almost painful. The man who helped create one of the most anarchic bands of the late 1990s became associated with control and dictatorship. Clown was originally a symbol of pure destruction, but 3 decades later, many fans see that same man as the symbol of control. The guy they think is controlling the brand, replacing members and acting as the cruel owner of a business. But maybe that's the real tragedy here, because the version of Slipknot people fell in love with was never built to last. It wasn't stable, it wasn't healthy, it wasn't sustainable. I mean, the band that recorded Iowa was brilliant, but it was destroying itself. Paul Gray is gone, Joey Jordison is gone, Chris Fenn is gone, Craig Jones is gone. The angry kids from Des Moines who built Slipknot no longer exist. Somebody had to decide what happened next, and whether fans liked the answer or not, Shawn Crahan was one of the people who stayed. So, did Clown really ruin Slipknot? Maybe. If by Slipknot you mean the reckless, unpredictable force that terrified parents and seemed capable of imploding after every tour. But if Slipknot was going to survive its own success, survive death, survive addiction, and survive 30 years in the music business, then somebody eventually had to become the adult in the room. The cruel joke is that the job fell to Clown.